Mike Show. I'm your host, Mansplaining Mike. This is the place where wokeness comes to die. And today, we're going to talk about some of this government waste, what they're spending our money on. And I think it's going to blow a lot of minds, guys. Especially if you're a liberal and you've never heard this type of discussion before. This will really shock you. And even if you aren't a liberal and you've heard about some of this stuff, I guarantee you're going to hear some new stuff in this show. Or at least I hope so anyway. Anyway, guys, the first clip we're going to look at is about smart cities and whether or not our tax dollars are going to fund them and how it's actually funding our doom.
Do you want to know what cities like Los Angeles, California, Maui, Hawaii, Santiago, Chile, Valencia, Spain, and Catania, Italy have in common? Last year it was announced that all of them would be smart cities, much like the city of Los Angeles. And coincidentally, each one of those cities experienced a devastating fire that destroyed millions and possibly billions of dollars. It's crazy that now smart cities are having a reputation of catching fire. And that should also beg the question, what other cities around where we live and around where you live are scheduled to be part of smart city movement? And just in case you're curious, some of these are major cities like San Jose, California, Cary, North Carolina, Dallas, Texas, Chicago, Illinois, Austin, Texas, Columbus, Ohio, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm not saying that any of this is going to happen in those cities. This is simply for informational purposes only, and I'm just trying to make people aware.
Most of those cities seem to be run by liberals. But let's be honest, guys. This isn't just a liberal agenda. There's Republicans who are really just rhinos, who are against the America First agenda, who probably buy into this type of stuff too. It would be interesting to see how many of them are actually ran by Republicans. Maybe I'll do a follow-up on this sometime. But I know for sure that a lot of them are run by liberals, like Los Angeles for one, Austin, Texas. Even though it's in Texas and that's more of a Republican state, that particular city I know has been taken over by liberals. So, it would be interesting to see how many of them are actually just rhinos, which is just Republicans in name only. That's how both of the parties probably are. A lot of them are probably just bought off by George Soros and AIPAC, just to be honest with you. But anyway, guys, let's get into this next clip.
Phoenix, Arizona? I'm not saying you're next, baby. I'm just saying it's interesting. I think it's interesting that old Billy Boy bought himself 24,000 acres of land right outside of Buckeye, Arizona. I think it's interesting that he bought himself another 2,800 acres within Buckeye, Arizona. I think it's interesting that this happened back in 2020. I think it's really interesting that certain insurance companies are canceling certain policies within Phoenix, Arizona for certain wild things. I think it's interesting that Phoenix, Arizona has now been deemed a high-risk area for wild things. I feel like I've seen this before, which makes this even more interesting because didn't certain insurance companies cancel certain parts of their policies for wild things like 3 to 5 months before they happened? And now suddenly Phoenix, Arizona is a high risk for wild things. I just think it's interesting how big people buy big plots of land where wild things tend to happen just a few years later. I think it's interesting that where those wild things happen tend to be where smart cities are headed up. But like I said, I didn't say you were next. I just said it was interesting.
It is interesting. I don't much believe in coincidences. She might be onto something. And for those of y'all who don't know, when she's saying wild things, she's talking about, the fires and stuff, guys. Whatever platform she was on, probably TikTok won't let her say wildfires for some reason. And if I get censored, I don't really care. They can censor me. I'll find another way to get my message out. But anyway, guys, let's move on to this next clip. All of these are about governmental waste and how they're spending our money, or about smart cities in general. So this next clip will be about smart cities again because we're on that track and we might as well keep going down that road before we cut into just government waste altogether. So let's take a look at this next clip about smart cities.
Control grid's an interesting thing. A lot of people don't realise what they're involved in. Just the simple fact of using credit cards, using smartphones and all of this automated system is the problem. People don't realise what it is. This system we're being led into is the New World Order in itself. The 5G smart grid is the New World Order, the Internet of Things. It's the New World Order. People don't really understand how that works, but what it's about is monitoring every single aspect of your life. The smart grid is being presented to people as this thing that's going to be highly beneficial to us. You know, you'll only be using the electricity that you use, you'll only be paying for that, all this sort of stuff. So it's been presented as a really positive thing. But what it will do, it will put a dollar value on absolutely every aspect of your life. So that every time you turn on a tap, the credit goes. Every time you turn on a light, every time you watch your TV, every time you boil your jug, every time you do anything, there's a dollar value attached to it. There's an interesting TV show that came out a couple of years ago called Black Mirror, and they had one episode of that where everybody, the only job they had was running on a treadmill or spinning a bike and just to accumulate credits, and they had to pay for every single action that they performed. And that's what the smart grid is. That's what we're being led into. And it's all about digital currency and control of everything. And if you're someone who lives a slightly alternate lifestyle, say you grow a few vegetables and you give some to your neighbours, or you do a little bit of massage for someone, or you do a bit of tarot reading or something like this, the only way you're going to be able to get paid for that once the smart grid comes online is through the transfer of digital credits, which means the government will get a tax. You'll have to put it on your income tax, or everything will be monitored. That's what it's about, complete blanket surveillance of every single action people are doing. That's what the smart grid is. And it's being rolled out underneath everything else while we're arguing about all of these issues and being given all of these global conflicts and all of this theatre of politics to fight and squabble about. Underneath all of that is this smart grid. And it's rolling out very, very quickly. And the smart grid, the 5G grid, underlying that is the fact that the 5G system that they're using to run the smart grid, the Internet of Things, is also being used by the military. It's a military-grade technology. It's basically an active denial system. So the 5G grid, not only will it track everything you do, it can be used as a weapon. It can be used as a microwave cannon. It can be used to disable people, to track people. It can see through walls. It can see what you're carrying, whether you're carrying money, whether you're carrying a weapon, all of this sort of stuff. So it's very, very evasive. Plus it does all sorts of damage to us biologically. You know, it damages our cell structure, damages the cell structure of all food, changes the cell structure of everything that it comes into contact with. And the 5G system will be a blanket system, blanket wave of communication. You know, we've got situations now where you lose signal on your mobile phone if you move too far away from a tower. That won't happen with the 5G. It will be everywhere, right across the country, in rural areas, everywhere you'll be able to get perfect signal. So everyone's going to kind of welcome this, but they don't realize what it is. It's about everything talking to everything else and everything tracking everything else. And also with the smart grid, it turns virtually every smart appliance into a surveillance system. There's been a new law passed in Australia where police have just been given the permission to tune into smart devices and listen to what's going on in people's homes. They can tune into your refrigerator. A lot of people don't realise your smart fridge has a microphone. They can tune in and listen to the conversations you're having in your kitchen. So anybody who's targeted for any reason at all, if they've got suspicions about anybody, they can just tune in, listen to their devices, their mobile phones, their refrigerators, their televisions, turn their cameras on, watch them through the television, all the stuff that they're doing. This is what the smart grid is. And this is being rolled out underneath everything. And we've got so many people distracted on so many issues trying to address the government corruption and all of this stuff. They're not realising that this is all rolling out. And in another 3 or 4 to 5 years, they're just going to wake up and go, what happened? How did I suddenly find myself in this digital prison? Because that's what it is. That's virtually what it is. It's a digital prison, a digital control grid. And if you want to participate in this society, you're going to have to participate in the smart grid. So we need to look at what it is and what it's going to be used for, and realise that the technology that we've got, we could use for our benefit. You know, all of this stuff could be used in completely different ways, in completely different directions. A smart grid could be used to the great benefit of mankind, and it's being presented in that way. But when you look at the people who are running it, the people who are running the world, well, the world's run by criminals, and they're not going to use this in the right way. They have no intention of it. And if you look at some of the white papers they've put out themselves, papers that have been put out by the Pentagon recently, that talk about federal vision for future computing and the nanotechnology grand challenge, and they talk about this 15-year plan they've got to roll all this out and eventually hand it all over to AI to control. And when we get to that point, then we've got the entire human experience being controlled by a machine, which will dictate everything according to an economic value and dictate everybody's value according to their economic worth. So this is a very, very bad situation for mankind to be led into under the guise of convenience and making our lives easier. It's really not going to do that at all. Well, they're doing it through the Internet of Things is how it's all being rolled out, and basically what is essential for the whole thing to happen is digital currency. They've got to digitize currency, remove all cash from the system. And you're getting that here in Denmark. We were discussing with people today, you can only ride the trains, you've got to pay for it with your mobile phone. What if you don't have a mobile phone? And if you don't log on, you've got to log on to the train, and then if you don't log off when you get off the train, it keeps taking your money, and suddenly your account is been depleted because you forgot to log off when you get off the train. Now, they could make all these sorts of things convenient. Now, you could pay for that, and it could just gauge your trip. You didn't have to log off. But they do that so that it depletes your account so that people want the smart grid. They make all these inconveniences. They put all these systems in place and make it inconvenient for you. You could forget to log off. You could forget to swipe your card when you leave the train. So suddenly all your money's gone. So they put these situations in place to make people want this grid to come online. Recently, when I came to check into the United States, I got to the passport counter. 16 counters there. 2 of them were open. 4 aeroplanes arrived, 1,200 people waiting to get through. 2 passport counters. Took us 2.5 hours to get our passports stamped. Because that way you want the retinal scanners. You want the smart grid. It's much more convenient. So they make it inconvenient for you all across the world. And people don't notice it. They just think it's hard to do things, and they want it. They welcome it. And meanwhile, they're focused on all of these battles and all these theatres of politics and all this stuff that they think is the problem. That they think they can address it. They think we can vote people in, vote people out, whatever. Put a new figurehead up there that will do the right thing for us. But underneath it all is this grid. And that's how they're going to do it. They just make it very, very inconvenient for you not to participate in the smart system, and so much easier when you do. And so people welcome it. And that's the way it's going. A lot of people are going to welcome this smart system. A lot of people are going to welcome instant communication. They're going to see it as a way to free the world. And like I said, it could be used to free the world, but it's not. It's going to be used to lock down the world, because underneath it is the surveillance system that is the smart grid, and underneath that is the weapons system that it can be turned into if you don't comply with the smart grid. And it gets to the point where if you do decide not to comply, you become a dissident, they can simply switch you off. Switch your chip off. And once it's all digital and you need that chip to get into your car, to get into your house, to access your bank account, to buy things, it's all automatic, suddenly you're locked out of the system. So there's no hope of dissent. There's no hope of free thought. There's no hope of questioning any of this. You just have to simply go with the flow. Because in the smart grid, there will only be 2 types of human beings that they're really concerned with. The smart grid will only, because it's going to be run by AI, it'll only look at 2 types of human beings, those that are desirable and those that are undesirable. And that's it. That'll be the 2 classes that you're in. And where you are in the food chain will be measured according to your economic worth. That's another important thing people need to look about AI and what is going to be running the system, is the fact that it's judging everybody according to their economic worth. It's putting a dollar value on everything. And all you've got to do is go and analyze a corporation to realize it's a psychopath. So when you've got a system that is putting an economic value on every human life and every human action, this is a psychopathic system that will discard people if they cannot pay for every action they perform. And life was never supposed to be like that. But, they'll just do it through the convenience and do it through making life so inconvenient for people if they don't participate. And they're doing it here, they're doing it everywhere. Every country that I go to, I can see elements leading towards a cashless society. And it's being done under the guise of convenience, but that is the catalyst that's going to hold it all together. This is why I encourage people to use cash all the time. I don't shop with credit cards, and I don't own a smartphone. And that's a hard thing for people. They run their lives off their smartphone. I still use a laptop, an old laptop with an old Windows installation on it. I don't use Windows 10. Any of these new surveillance systems, I just don't participate in it. That's the only way we're going to stop it, is by people not participating in it. But unfortunately they are, because they want their life to be more convenient.
Hey, he sounds right to me. He's on to a lot of great points. I don't know personally if I want to go back to not having a smartphone, but it's probably a great idea, guys. It makes life really convenient or whatever. And I'm sure there's ways that it could be made to be technology that wouldn't be spying on us. But the real thing we need to do is just stop debating about how things are supposed to be run. We know how things are supposed to be run. The founders told us how things were supposed to be run. It's called the United States Constitution. And I know a lot of people will look at it like, well, there was racism back when they first wrote it. And, Yeah, but after the 13th Amendment, that was all over. I don't think we need any new amendments for sure, and we need to get rid of a lot of the amendments. But that's one that could probably stick around, and I'm sure most people who believe in the Constitution believe that. That's why it's important not always to look at things as Democrat or Republican, but more through a constitutionalist lens. Who's doing things more right according to the Constitution? Because that Constitution is very clear. It's supposed to limit the powers of government over the citizens. It's not supposed to grant the government control over you. I mean, other than in order to protect the Constitution. Like, somebody got to tell you can't be out here killing babies and having abortions because they have a right to life. And at the time of conception, they have a different genetic code than you. So it's not your body, your choice. It's another body. Anyway, guys, let's take a look at some more of this government waste. I don't want to get too much on the talking down to people type of track today. Let's talk more about this government waste.
First off, you guys do know the Pentagon has a budget for film. Like, there's a whole department in the Pentagon. I know that. That's a fact. There you go. That's all you need to know. There's an entire department in the Pentagon. They get involved with films, and they get involved with films for the purpose of propaganda. They always have.
What movies have
I
they
should have
produced?
said Pentagon instead of CIA. Tons of them. I should show you the list. You should pull it up. It's wild. Yeah, Pentagon Department for Hollywood. Tons of them. Even Transformers. Even Transformers, like, you know, because they're concerned about certain narratives. They get involved with, like, World War films, like, how are we telling a story about history? Usually it's because we're lying about what we did or trying not to make Americans aware of the crimes against humanity that we commit overseas, you know?
Yeah, the Pentagon has funded some films. Black Hawk Down, Red Dawn, GoldenEye.
The more you know. So now you understand your experience in theaters is what your government wants you to think. They want you to think that this is how things happen, and it's usually not at all how things have actually happened. It's crazy. You grow up in school and you think propaganda belongs to the East or something. Mm-hmm. Propaganda is the name of the game of our government. They, again, never want you to look into the crimes that they are committing, so they're constantly trying to sell themselves as the good guys. They did the most. They rescued and saved the world. They've never done anything bad overseas. If you are living and you believe that the American government hasn't committed crimes against humanity, you had to wake up from the propaganda. You just got to you got to learn real history, not what was taught to you in a textbook. That's all just propaganda, you know? We've done horrific things. Things.
Wow, guys. I mean, to me, it sounds like the government is using Hollywood as like an MK Ultra project. I wouldn't doubt it. A lot of the people that are in Hollywood are victims of MK Ultra. I mean, it's just facts. I talked about it in another video. I'll leave a link in the description box below, guys, so you can check it out. It's all about MK Ultra and mind control. And I think you guys would be really surprised about the people who are controlling these Hollywood actors. It's worth looking into, guys. I mean, think about it. How is Hollywood being used against us? They make movies that pull at our heartstrings and make people emotional and try to get them to believe a certain narrative a lot of the time. I mean, there's a lot of ways that Hollywood can be weaponized, especially if the government has its tentacles in it. And we know that AIPAC has to have its tentacles in it. I'm not going to go into why, because this isn't a show about that. We're just looking at government waste, and Hollywood came up. So, I mean, look at it like they might be trying to control your mind through Hollywood. That's the thing that makes sense to me. Why else would the government be paying for these videos if it wasn't used to control you? Anyway, let's take a look at this next video and see what we think about some more of this government waste.
I thought DOD stood for something else, but you're saying it's definitely Department of Defense providing the school lunches.
Yeah.
Who mandates this?
The state and the federal government.
What?
We purchase the food items.
Mandates who you buy food from?
Yeah. They give us the funding.
Yeah.
They tell us where to buy the food.
Yeah. And then they negotiate the contracts with the providers.
That's, okay, that's interesting. I did not know that.
Oh
yeah, we do get some of the stuff that we buy. Separately, there's some money that we have to use for those products and stuff.
So they'll give us hundreds of thousands of dollars, but we can only spend it in their channels.
So when you say their channels, can I ask, are there's specific companies that you're allowed to buy through, and are those?
We purchase through DOD. They have their own ordering guide, and we purchase through them. But they work out the contracts throughout the country. Yeah. They work out those contracts, and it varies each year who gets those contracts, but we have no control over that.
So if we come across a consistent issue, we can refuse the order. It goes back to them, we get the credit, we can spend it again with them in hopes that the quality is better when it comes back.
Right.
That's what happened with bananas. When you asked about bananas, they were consistently coming in completely green to the point where they would not ripen at all, even after we had kept a case in our warehouse for 2 weeks and it did not ripen. It was starchy and hard, and so we sent all the cases back and then no longer took bananas off the menu entirely because
there's no nutrition in that.
They could not guarantee quality. Yeah.
And you have no choice but to order them through there. So it's bananas or no bananas.
Yeah.
Wow.
But that's the thing, Francis, like just today, they have to put it on their plate and they're told, so you just want to eat the tater tots, but you're not going to eat this burger that you hate. And you're like, please just give me the tater tots. They're like, you have to put it on your plate. Otherwise we won't get reimbursed. But no one's tracking the garbage can to see what's actually going in there.
And that's true for every public school district. Their nutrition services do bring money in. They're one of the only revenue generating departments for the district.
It seems to me like the people who are on the floor, who are trying to do the right thing for the kids, are in it every day. They're seeing the food, they're preparing the food, and they really want the best thing for all of our kids, which is the same as what we want. Then if the bananas are no good and you guys send those back, then there's no bananas for the kids, and that sucks for you guys and it sucks for us and it sucks for the kids. And in the same respect, if the Department of Defense is supplying the food and they're the ones who are negotiating these contracts with these mega corporations like, General Mills and Nestle, all of these, then they are incentivized to get the lowest quality at the highest, price. So then the more processed, the better for them. So again, it seems like the only options you guys have are the things that are predetermined anyway. And so you're
Wow, guys, why is the Department of Defense the ones who are in control of our children's food? That doesn't sound like a good thing. The Department of Defense is made to destroy. Are we spending our money to destroy our children? I mean, we're giving them bananas that are genetically modified to the point where they won't even ripen. That's insane, and they're giving it to babies, to little kids. What else is that doing? Is that the reason why testosterone in men is dropping? Is that the reason why these kids are confused and they want to change their genders? What's going on? What is it they're putting in our food? I mean, our kids' food. Is it something genetically modified to the point where it's messing with their chemical makeup and messing with their brain chemistry? Is it causing schizophrenia? Is it causing other medical problems? Is it a way for the government to tap into their thoughts? I'm going to leave a link to that MK Ultra video in the description box below. I suggest everybody take a look at it. It might interest you if you're interested in what we're talking about today. But anyway, guys, let's keep going and see what else we can find that the government is spending our money on, and see how many more of the programs might lead to our eventual destruction.
FEMA spent $59 million in New York to feed and house Biden migrants. Remember how illegals were staying here at swanky hotels and throwing out the free food? Probably would have been better spent on hurricane or wildfire victims. Instead, Biden funneled the money to Midtown hotel owners. Those hotels booked up full for a whole year. Then no one could get a hotel room in the whole city, and other hotels jacked their prices up. And the government wasted $100 grand studying snapping. Ready? Scientists concluded this, quote, varying degrees of friction between the fingers alters the elastic performance of a snap. Thank you. DOGE is ending a $2 million military program that forced soldiers to talk to cartoons. Not just any cartoons, DEI cartoons. And Primetime's working to get that video for you.
Wow. They wasted trying to figure out how snaps get louder. I think everybody figures that out around the time they learn how to snap. Like, oh, wait, if I press harder, it makes a louder noise. That's what scientists are paid for with our government money. I mean, the money we give to the government, our government is wasting it on that. Do you think that's something that important that they needed to study it? That's ridiculous, guys. That's paying for our own destruction, too. We're paying into the government, and they're just wasting our money, throwing it away on bull crap like that instead of using it to help the homeless soldiers, the homeless veterans, or just the homeless in general. And then a lot of times, as you'll see later in the video, we pay into stopping homelessness. That's what we're told. And then they take that money and completely throw it away and jag it off on something else. It's completely ridiculous. There's no accountability. We don't know where our money's going. We need to find a way where it's transparent and we can see every dollar that's spent if that's what we want to do. But they make it really hard to do that. Anyway, guys, let's keep going and see what else we can find.
Here's the government mine, where we house our paperwork because we won't computerize it like the rest of the world. We have 700 people working in an underground tunnel. What are we, Hamas? It's not like it's a top secret bunker. It's just where we keep Mark McGonagall's retirement folder from the Department of Commerce. How are we just finding out about this? There wasn't one whistleblower who was like, hey, Washington Post, I commute to work down a 200-foot mine shaft every day, and there's no computers down here. We do everything with a Bic pen. I can't breathe, and my hand's falling off. I'm literally being shafted. Didn't we pass labor laws in the 40s against this? And Democrats are supposed to be pro-labor. Shouldn't they want to save these workers from these backwards conditions? No. The Democrats want to keep the limestone mine open.
Which side are you on? We'll fight against Doge. We'll fight Elon Musk. No Elon scab within our walls. We'll fight from dawn to dusk. Oh, which side are you on? Which side are you on? Tell me. Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Trump's coming for our unions. He wants us all to fail. He wants us to bow to him, but we want him in jail.
Musk wants to rescue these government gremlins from working underground. And what do they want? They want to throw them in jail. Or they just scream.
We are all willing to work with anyone who's serious about doing the work of censoring the American people and advancing progress.
And for every American who doesn't want some weird Elon Musk suck up,
that Elon Musk needs to keep his grubby hands, his greedy grubby hands off of our government.
Situation seemed hopeless in the heart of the Jim Crow. KKK was very active. Situation seemed hopeless.
And I'll tell you, I'm from Jersey, so I look at it a little differently. I say Trump.
I don't swear in public very well, but we have to Trump.
The Democrats just came out as pro-mineshaft and pro-terrorist tuition and pro-blank check. Musk and his teenage deputy big balls are saving us $1 billion a day. $1 billion a day. And have uncovered what could be the biggest kickback scheme in American history. And the media wants his head on a platter.
I'm so confused. Did that bald-headed chick just say that our tax dollars are supposed to go to censor us? Like that was a good thing? That's what the Democrats are fighting for now? And they got people singing that stupid crap. Like, we want to censor you. Stop having freedom of speech. We want to violate your whole Constitution. You don't have any rights. It's all up to the government what you can do. The Constitution was written to limit the powers of the government and give the power to the people. That's what I'm saying when I tell people that we need to start looking at things more through a constitutionalist view instead of just Republican and Democrat. I think we could start coming together as a people. I mean, we just have to agree that the Constitution is the best thing that we have. And that law of the land is the most important law. I mean, and everything in that needs to be protected. That's what the government is hired to do. That's what we're supposed to be voting for. We're supposed to be voting for people who are protecting our Constitution. That's why we're known as a constitutional republic, guys. Everything is supposed to be based on the Constitution, not people's outrage or, you know what I mean? It's not supposed to be up to the people as a whole what goes on in the country. The Constitution already tells you what's supposed to happen in the country. You're supposed to have a First Amendment. Nobody's supposed to be able to violate it. You're supposed to have a Second Amendment. Nobody's supposed to be able to violate it. You're supposed to have the 13th Amendment, which set the slaves free. That's what it was meant to do. That's all the 13th Amendment was meant to do. It wasn't meant to protect illegal aliens. So when you have all these people trying to interpret it for something other than what it actually was and what the framers had in mind, that becomes a problem because they're trying to use their point of view as a way to take away your rights and your sovereignty. We fought a whole war, the Revolutionary War, so that we could have a country. That doesn't mean, hey, we want to open up all the borders and let everybody come over here willy-nilly. We had a way to allow people to come over here legally so that we could be a country that accepted refugees and accepted all different types of people from different types of life. But all that changed. They wanted to use the 13th Amendment to just completely make it so that we don't have borders, and that borders don't mean anything, and that people could come over here illegally, even if they're not the jurisdiction thereof. And that's the most important part of the 13th Amendment, guys. That means if you're born in this country to legal citizens, then you would be considered jurisdiction thereof because your parents were. But if your parents snuck over to this country illegally and then have sex, and then you're born here, that doesn't make you guys all legal. That's not what the 13th Amendment was meant to do, because they're not jurisdiction thereof. And the proof of that is it doesn't happen with our ambassadors and stuff like that. If their children are born here, they're not automatically considered jurisdiction thereof. So why would it work like that for illegals? I mean, guys, these people are really out of control. They're just trying to throw our whole Constitution away like that thing didn't matter. It's the most important thing in America because it's what made America. The most important part of our history is the Constitution. And that's what guarantees you the freedoms that America has. If we keep allowing people to convince us that they should be able to change the Constitution, then we're going to keep having problems like that, guys. We're going to keep having people locked up for no reason, or not having their rights met so they don't get fair trials. I mean, the Constitution, it guarantees you so much. You should love that thing and cherish it. It's what sets us apart from these other countries. We fought a war to do that. Anyway, guys, let's keep going and see what else we think.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. You spent over $574 million on illegal immigrants here in Chicago, Illinois since 2022. Now, you still feel like you have to harbor these illegals, which is not a good idea. And in my personal opinion, I don't think it's a good idea to challenge Tom Homan on this because he's trying to clean up our cities, Mr. Brandon Johnson. Now, let me just remind everybody here that Brandon Johnson is terrible with the budget. How is this $40 million credit line is going to work exactly? Because the key word is credit. So how much will we be using from this $40 million? And the real question is, how much will we be paying back? Now, you want to sit here, you and J.B. Pritzker want to puff out your chest and fight Tom Homan. We need Tom Homan here in Chicago. We need Donald Trump. And I don't want to see people like Pam Bundy and Kash Patel, haul you up out of here and become prosecuted. I don't want to see that happen. But they will do their job if they have to, Brandon Johnson. Now, we are $1 billion in debt. That's absolutely insane. Kamala Harris, she spent $1 billion on her campaign less than a year, and she's $20 million in debt. So it's looking like Democrats are bad with money. Now, you ignored me for 10 to 15 seconds last time I was speaking, and I really did not appreciate that at all. But I got a Christmas present for you. Let's remind the people of Chicago that Brandon Johnson spent $32,000 in campaign funds on haircuts and makeup. So I got an early Christmas present for you, Brandon Johnson. This is some makeup for you right here. You got some rouge. You got the makeup brush right there. So you can save this people some money, for crying out loud. Now, let me tell you people, I'm going to be serious here. We need to start voting different in these cities like New York and Chicago. Stop voting these people in. It's not Democrat versus Republican anymore. It is populist versus establishment. It is the populist versus the establishment. Stop letting them trick you into the race baiting when it comes to Brandon Johnson. Oh, black people need help too. Trump want to hurt black people. What are you talking about? We're legal here. We are legal.
He's 100% right. They're illegal. That's what the 13th Amendment was written for. It was written for that they would be legal. All this idea that Donald Trump wants to deport everybody who's not white, that doesn't even make sense. He didn't say anything like that. He said he wants to deport the people that are here illegally. People just say nonsense and try to get people emotions attached to every argument. That's how you know they're lying. Anyway, guys, let's check out this next video and see what we think.
Congress has paid over $17 million in hush money for sexual misconduct inside of the offices in these buildings. And what's more is that was taxpayer money. right? The allegation is that President Trump paid $130,000 of his own money. But here in Congress, there may be some on this dais. I mean, I'm for turning loose all of these records. Who in here has had the taxpayer pay for their sexual misconduct charges the hush money? I bet there's some over there. There may be some over here. I don't know, but I do know it's taxpayer money, and I do know not a single penny of it has been turned in as a campaign finance expense. Is the FEC going to investigate the $17 million that Congress has paid to settle, behind closed doors these sexual misconduct allegations?
Congressman, if a complaint were to come to us about it, I'm sure it would be thoroughly investigated.
Yeah, guys, and you're supposed to believe that they would thoroughly investigate themselves for crimes that they're committing with your tax dollars. And just imagine that. They're saying they tried to convict Donald Trump for paying hush money out of his own pocket instead of stealing taxpayer dollars to do it. They want to be able to funnel their money, and since Donald Trump didn't want to funnel taxpayer dollars and he wanted to take care of his own problems, they say that's illegal. Imagine that.
In 2019, California budgeted $24 billion to clean up the homeless problem here. It's been 5 years, you guys. That money is gone, and that money is not accounted for as to where it's went. We do know Gavin Newsom just built himself a $9 million home up on the hill in San Francisco. They thought by giving $24 billion to the state of California, they'd be able to clean up this homelessness or actually make a little dent in it. Actually, the population of homeless has grown there's around 190,000 homeless people living in California. And if they would have given that money to the homeless citizens, each homeless person would have got $160,000. Let that one sit in. So they basically wasted $24 billion. They're giving free drug kits on the streets to these people, so they're enabling their problem. We know California is one of the most expensive places to live in America, so not only is it extremely expensive to live here, people can't afford to live here, the housing is so limited, there's not enough housing. But as I tell you, as we walk around these streets, we've been to many big cities here in California, there is building after building that is vacant, that is totally abandoned. If you ask me, they should have spent that $24 billion turning these buildings into apartments just for people, not only for the homeless, but for people that live here in California who can't afford to live, but for
I'm starting to wonder what we pay taxes for at all. I mean, honestly, it's just supposed to go to protect our border and to make sure that our country is run right. I mean, and it's obviously not when you got homeless veterans sleeping on the street. You can't say our country has been running right. And we're paying taxes for what? It all goes to other countries. All our taxes, as I've talked about in the past, they go to Israel. They go to other countries like the Ukraine, billions and billions of dollars. And just a fraction of what we spend on giving to other countries could end our homelessness. And then all that money that's going to USAID, all that money is being wasted on all types of different things that are going on around the world. That's not what our taxes are supposed to do. Like I said before, we fought a war to be an independent nation. What do we look like trying to fix everybody else's problems with our citizens' tax dollars? If the government wants to do that, they better figure out a way to make their own money. But then that kind of turns our government into a corporation. And a lot of people say they're against that too. You don't want your government to be a corporation, but you also don't want them to tax you unconditionally and just steal your money and waste it. There has to be some middle ground, guys, and we have to be the ones overseeing it, not the government. I mean, you honestly think that the government is going to police itself? How has that worked out? Look at what was going on for these last 4 years before Trump got back in office. You really think the government has any business policing itself? It's telling people they gotta allow their kids to be brainwashed in schools to decide they want to genetically or gender mutilate themselves. Just completely chop off body parts and stuff. And that's what they're learning in school. That might be a good idea or that's okay. It's not the school's job to implant those type of morals into our kids. It's our job to have our morals implanted onto our kids or the morals we want them to have. It's not up to the school to decide what kind of morality our children are going to have and what we have to teach at home. But this is the type of stuff we pay into a lot of times, guys. And it's just paying for our own destruction and our own doom. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Also, share this with some sissy-ass liberal who'll cry about it for the next 20 years, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. I'm out.